Hello and welcome to the Argyle CX/UX Leadership Forum, Next Generation Customer Journeys and Technology. My name is Vicki Lynn Brunskill with Argyle. It's great to have everyone joining us today. I have some information to share with you, and then we will turn the floor over to our esteemed opening keynote speaker. We also welcome you to stay socially connected during today's event. For those of you who are active on social media, please use the hashtag Argyle Digital and follow us on X, formerly Twitter, at Argyle Exec Forum. Also, please be sure to follow Argyle on LinkedIn for special announcements. And I'd like to just take a moment to touch on our content neutrality policy, which we've curated based on the feedback we've received over the years from members. We have worked closely with our speaking faculty to ensure that you receive a set of balanced and neutral viewpoints today during the sessions, and we appreciate our members' support of this policy. And finally, and most importantly, we want to hear from you today. So during each session, we encourage you to submit your questions and comments in the Q&A box on your screen. And following each presentation, we've set aside time for our speakers to weigh in on those questions. Thank you again for joining us today. And now let's get started. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Simon Criss, futurist, innovator, and author of The AI-Empowered Customer Experience, a CX practitioner's guide to the possibilities and risks of AI. We are excited to have Simon with us for his opening keynote presentation titled AI ML for CX. Is there anything they can't do? Welcome, Simon, and over to you.
Thanks, Vicki Lynn, and hello to everybody on the stream. I come to you from Melbourne in Australia, where the time is 3 a.m. So if I start nodding off in the middle of the presentation, you'll understand why I need more coffee. So I'm going to be talking about a little bit about how AI is being used in CX, and give you some practical applications for that. As I go through that, I know people like to take photos of slides or screen capture slides and things. You're welcome to do that, but it's not needed. We're going to be making these slides available via a PDF afterwards. And most of what we're talking about is contained in the book that I wrote. Vicki Lynn very kindly just referred to it, the AI-Empowered Customer Experience. I wrote it back in June, which in the world of AI probably means that it's almost out of date now, but it's a practical application. All right, we're going to talk about AI in CX, and Argyle asked me to do this in 25 minutes, where normally I'd be asking for about 2 hours. So we're going to do a bit of a cut down version because this area is so complex and there's so much going on in it. So let's just absolutely push into this and get started. Now, I could be talking about a whole pile of things today. I could be talking about risks. I could be talking about ethics. I could be talking about a whole pile of things. But given our time constraint, I thought it was probably best if we just talked about some use cases. And in particular, I want to walk you through 4 use cases, and for each of them, show you how this might actually play out, how this might actually work in a real environment. And as said before, please feel free to drop questions in. I'll try and pick some up as I go, and if not, I'll pick the others up at the end. All right, so the very first use case for AI, the one that everybody is talking about, is chatbots, 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 chatbots. And there's a very big push for moving generative AI into chatbots. And I just want to pause there for a second and just talk about the difference between generative AI and conversational AI. Often when you talk to the vendors, they're just going to say, we have AI, but you need to find out which form of AI, because each does a different thing. As a very short intro, generative AI is very good at having a discussion, having a conversation, because it understands the context of the entire discussion that you're having. Conversational AI is very good at answering single point questions and collecting data. So the chatbots of the future are actually probably going to be a hybrid of both generative and conversational AI. The one company that I've seen that's using generative AI in their chatbot more than anyone else is Expedia. And this is their app. You'll see in the middle, it's highlighting, chat to us about ChatGPT. And what you're seeing on screen right now is someone asking about a honeymoon in Hawaii. And the chatbot comes back and says, congratulations. So it shows a bit of empathy and all those types of things. It starts talking about the destinations. Clearly, this is a guy who then asks, is April a good month to go surfing? So he's less interested in his honeymoon and more interested in the surfing, I would say. And then asks for recommendations of a couple of romantic resorts. So it's at that point where it says here, go to trips, that it's jumping out of generative AI and going off to conversational AI and some other application to be able to fulfill the need. So the conversation actually happened in generative AI, and it's far more conversational. Anybody on the call that has used ChatGPT for their own purposes and asked follow-up questions and things will understand just how conversational generative AI can be. And that kind of leads on to a really exciting new area for chatbots. And this is multimodal. For those of you that follow AI, you'll know that Google released their new Gemini product yesterday. OpenAI have released multimodal about a month ago. And what multimodal means is you don't have to type into your chatbot anymore. You can talk to it with your voice. You can draw something on a page and it will be able to understand, depending on how well you draw, will be able to understand what you're drawing. So a practical application for this is if somebody has their energy bill and they don't understand a certain charge, they can just grab that energy bill, draw a circle around the bit they don't understand, and push a photo of that up into a multimodal chatbot. And the chatbot will be able to say, oh, okay, I see you're talking about a parks and gardens charge, and this is how it's calculated. This is why you need to pay it, or whatever that case may be. So it's just going to make the chatbots so much more interactive. You'll be able to give it video of you doing something. So for local government, imagine someone taking their phone out and videoing a pothole in the road, and then being able to push that video up and the chatbot being able to understand that this is a pothole. So multimodal is going to be a very large thing in chatbots in 2024. And of course, the last part of it that it's able to do is real-time translation. So, somebody might chat to you in Spanish. It will come to your agent in English. They will respond in English, and the customer will see the response back in Spanish again, or French, or Farsi, or you name the language. Generative AI, for the most part, large language models can do very accurate real-time translation. As yet, nobody is doing, like this little video suggested, sign language translation, but I do know of 2 companies that are working on that right now. So that was chatbots. I wanted to get that one done. The next one is a knowledge base, and this is probably the single biggest use case for generative AI, particularly in contact centers. And it's become a little bit of a space race. So you have the incumbent knowledge management providers. I'm talking Verint, Panviva, or Upland as they're now known, people like that are LivePro, that are rapidly trying to move generative AI into their existing solution. But at the same time, you have a lot of startup generative AI companies trying to build out knowledge tools. And they can be incredibly powerful. And to give you a bit of an idea, I want to give you an example. So I'm just going to change screens for a moment. Bear with me. I'm going to, get rid of that. And for this, I'm going to use a little tool called Poe. And Poe is a generative AI tool. It's free to sign up. and it leverages various different models to do some work. And for this, I'm going to use a little bot that I created. And just for a bit of fun for you, it's called Booze Hound, and very Australian. And it knows everything there is to know about wine. So what I've asked this bot to do is it knows me, and it knows that I'm a call center worker working in a call center that sells wine and can answer any question that a customer might have. So because this isn't super interactive, I'll make up the questions. So how about, what is Merlot? Let's just ask it that. So it says it's a popular red grape known for its smoothness. It's, it can be enjoyed on its own or paired with food. So that's a great answer. And that's the type of answer you might typically get out of a knowledge management system. But what if I said, what are some good ones? So what I want you to notice here is that I'm typing, what are some good ones? I didn't have to ask, what are some good examples of Merlot? Just what are some good ones? And the large language model understands my intent. So one of the big things about AI is, does it understand human intent? So here, clearly it's understood. It knows that when I said some good ones, I was talking about good Merlots, and it's given me 3. I will apologize. I made this bot focus on Australian wines rather than American wines. So it's given me a Bin 407, a Wynns Coonawarra Estate, and a Cape Mental. They're all wonderful Merlots. So it's given me those. And so let's follow on and say, where can I get them? And once again, it's understood, where can I get them to be the wines that we just talked about. And it says you can get them at various liquor stores and online retailers. So here I'm going to do something even shorter. I'm just going to type 3 online. And the large language model is going to understand that what I meant was, please give me 3 online retailers where I can get the Merlots that we've been talking about. So it's much, much easier for agents to interact with an AI-empowered knowledge base, because they don't need to use any special language. They can just talk in their normal language. Now comes the really powerful bit. I'm going to ask it to please summarize this chat into 3 sentences, and I'm not even spelling that right, that I can share with the customer. And you could have that as a button. So what it's done here is it's just summarized that entire conversation. It starts off talking about Merlot as a popular red. It talks about the 3 that it gave us. And it also said where they can be found, including the names of the online retailers. But you know what? I don't really like that answer, so I'm going to say, make it happier. And so the knowledge base can go off and say, absolutely, here's a happier version of the summary that you asked for. And you can then just copy and paste and give that to your customer. So there's a bit of an example of how you would use a knowledge base powered by generative AI. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. Fantastic. And when you think about these knowledge bases, you should think, for those of you that are Iron Man fans, think about Jarvis that's in Iron Man's helmet. So it's not that it is amazing, but it makes him amazing by giving him tips and hints and tricks and doing things for him. The next step beyond that is starting to use generative AI to remove mundane tasks for call center agents. And there are a heap of mundane things that agents do, not the least of which is typing up a post-call summary in your CRM system. All the agents have to do it. It takes them 30 seconds to a minute to 2 minutes, depending on. I was recently working with a police service where it took 17 minutes to do the post-call summary because they were writing crime reports. But generative AI can do that work for you. So once again, let's have a look at how that might work. So I'm going to just jump out of the presentation. I think I'll go back to Poe and do that again. This time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this. So this is on a website, it's a full transcript of a phone call that happened between your ex-president and our ex-prime minister. And it happened back in 2017. And as you can see, as I scroll down, there is a full conversation about what Malcolm Turnbull said and what Donald Trump said, and it goes backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. So what I've done for Poe is I've just taken that text and dropped it into a PDF. I'm going to grab that call summary, do that there. And then I'm going to ask it to, I'll copy that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Poe to please summarize the attached call script, start by identifying the callers, then give a single paragraph succinct summary of the call, and finally give a list of any agreements. If there was no agreements, just type nil. So in the real world, imagine this as being technology that just listens to your call and captures what happened and pumps this straight into your CRM system. As you can see, it's already finished. It says the callers were Malcolm Turnbull, Prime Minister of Australia, and Donald Trump, President of the United States. So it figured out who they were because in the PDF, I didn't tell it who it was. During the call, they discussed various topics, backgrounds as businessmen turned politicians. They talked about the resettlement agreement for refugees held in Nauru. They talked about this, they talked about that. And despite some disagreements, both leaders reaffirmed their commitment, which is really good. Agreements and commitments, nil. So here's your call summary, and your agent didn't have to do this. This was just done for them. And we could even go on and say, estimate the duration of the call. So let's see what it thinks. So it says based on the content, it's difficult, but based on the amount of dialogue, it appears the call likely lasted for a significant amount of time, possibly ranging from 15 to 30 minutes or more. And it probably was about 15 minutes. So imagine how long your contact center agent would need to spend summarizing a 15-minute call. And here, it's been done for them and done quite succinctly. Of course, the other benefit of that is that all of your notes in all of your CRM systems will always look similar because they're being done in a similar way rather than each person interpreting it their own way. Okay, let's get back to the presentation because I've only got limited time. Automated actions. So this is the next step beyond, say, summarizing the call. You might have AI run off in the background and do things like reset a password, block a credit card, reissue a bill, redispatch a product. Any of those types of things can be automated. And in a similar way to summarizing the call, imagine your chat agents having everything that happened in the bot summarized for them when the chat is passed to them. So if there was a 5 or 10 minute bot interaction, rather than them having to skim read the whole thing, we could ask generative AI to summarize what happened in the bot interaction. All right, one of the last ones that I want to look at is reporting. And reporting's a bit of a pet topic for me. So I don't understand why in 2023 we have managers sitting in front of a computer for 4 hours generating 20 slides that nobody reads. And they do this every month, over and over and over again. And some of you are probably giggling right now because That's exactly what happens to you. When we could let generative AI do the reporting for us. And once again, we're going to zip out of PowerPoint and go and have a look at this in real time. Come on, PowerPoint. Okay, let's go here. And this time, I think rather than using Poe, I think this time I'll use ChatGPT. And we'll use GPT-4. That's fine. And I'm just going to copy this and put it in here. So here I'm asking it to write a monthly report for the month of July, and I've given it some statistics. Now, in real life, you would have AI go off to your core systems, to your Genesis or Verint or NICE or 8x8 or whatever system you're using, and pick this data up. But I've told it what the data is. It has an NPS of 66 and complaint calls rose and blah, blah, blah. So, and I've asked it to do it with a business tone of voice. So let's see how long it takes to write our monthly report. It's getting going a little bit slow, but now it's kicking into gear. You probably won't have time to go and make a cup of tea or a cup of coffee because it'll be finished before you do that. So let's let it run through. It'll only take 30 seconds or so. It's already talked about ASA. By the way, it understood what ASA and NPS were. I didn't need to tell it. It talked about the analysis. It's talked about complaints. It's now talking about the resignations. So it's writing all of this for you. Now, of course, you might want to read this before you send it off, but you could quite easily send this off to your manager and say, here's our monthly report. So there it is, it's done. But you might still work for a company that really loves to have slides done. And if that's the case, and I'm going to do this in Google Slides, you can open up Google Slides and use a thing called Slides AI, sorry. And what it allows us to do is it allows us to go in and generate slides. And then take a second. Every time you do a demonstration, things run slow. It might let me do this and it might not. I've asked it to do it in a conference style. I'll say automatic. It can figure out how many slides it wants to do. No, it wants me to upgrade my plan. Good. This always happens when you go to do a demo. I won't do it because I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you can use Slides AI to generate the slides that you wanted from this text that came out of ChatGPT. So you don't need to do them, but you absolutely could. So that's just an idea of how reporting can be used. I'm going to go back into that. And sorry, I need to just go to Zoom for a second so that I can see the chat window in case you guys are putting up questions. And there are a few questions, which is fantastic. Okay, so now that we've seen those 4 use cases, let's just start to wrap with 3 common blockers, 3 things that I notice seem to stop companies from adopting generative AI. And this is food for thought for you. The first one is Meno's paradox. So Meno, however you want to pronounce it, was around in the time of Socrates, and it's reported that Meno came to Socrates and said, I know that if I ask the right question, I'm going to learn a whole pile about something, but if I don't know anything about it, then how do I know if I'm asking the right question? And it was a paradox that he and Socrates discussed for some time. And we see the exact same thing in AI today, is that people say when, a vendor or something says, what would you like to do with AI? The company says, well, tell me what it can do, and then I'll choose. And the vendor is saying, no, you need to tell us what you want to do, and that's what we'll build. And so we're getting this going round and round in circles about use cases. So one of the best things that you can do is find the biggest pain point in your operation and go after that one first. And look at the complexity of adding AI to it. But Meno's paradox is a big problem. The second big problem is just AI is too big, it's too scary. I keep seeing all this negative media about it. I don't want my data shared across the entire world, and I don't want a bad chatbot. And so it just becomes scary. And that little acronym there, FOMF, is fear of moving forward. And we're seeing a lot of fear of moving forward with generative AI. The third blocker, and this is a big one, is the non-alignment of execs. So it's that all of your execs just weren't together on the same page about what they should do with AI. So that was a lot. I hopefully smashed through a lot in that 20-25 minutes. I do want you to remember that AI is empirical. So you can't read your way through it. You can't study your way through it. Sooner or later, you have to take off your shoes and get in the water with everyone else and try it. Start using it and playing with it. Whether you do that at home by playing with ChatGPT or whether you do that in a work scenario, you need to start playing with AI. All right, we're going to go to some questions. While I'm doing questions, if it's all right with you, I'm going to leave this slide up. If you're interested in the book and you like a physical copy, you can use that QR code on the left. It'll take you to Amazon. If you are happy with a PDF copy, on the right is a QR code that will take you to my LinkedIn page. You can follow me and by all means message me and ask for a copy in PDF, and I'm happy to send you a copy of the book in PDF. All right, let's touch on a couple of the questions here. The first one was, what's the number one CX process that you believe can be made more efficient and effective with AI? By far, that is the knowledge management one, the one I showed you. If you had a knowledge management tool that was so intuitive that agents could just have a discussion with it like they were talking to their team leader, you suddenly then don't need to have a 4-week or a 6-week induction program. You don't need to teach people all the policies, all the processes, all the information in a parrot fashion. They can just interact with the tool, and that will save you not only precious time in the phone call where they're not putting the caller on hold consistently, but it will also save you a ton of money in onboarding new agents. So I would say that's the number one process. Another question, everyone is selling AI as the next best thing for all customer touch points. Isn't that so true? Which tasks are not AI friendly? In other words, what can't AI do? That is the best question I've ever seen. So the customer touch points that AI can't do. AI needs a lot of data to learn and do well. It also needs clean data to work with. So this is a little about how clean and labeled your data is or isn't. If you've got data sitting in 5 or 6 different systems, and some of those are old, like you've still got a Lotus Notes database or something like that, AI is not going to be able to touch that. It needs to be structured. And the other one is if you have a problem with if you have a business that has semi-structured data. So think of an insurance company that has a policy for every customer. That also can be quite difficult to work with. All right, very last quick one. Is there an equivalent Google Slides AI in Microsoft 365? Yes, there is. If you get Microsoft's new Copilot, it can create slides for you. So yes, there is a number of those. So on that, Vicky Lynn, if it's all right with you, I'm going to leave people with this little Christmas message and pass back to you.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Simon. What a great and so practical. That keynote was fabulous. I want to thank everyone for joining us for this session. And this session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. Thank you again, Simon.